got Manchester United against Sunderland at Old Trafford. The Sunday Express goes with home and away, with Ruben Amorim saying we must play like this every game because I haven't won away from home so far this season, of course. Jason, we keep talking about Manchester United whenever they win and ask, is this the turning point or is it simply kicking the can down the road again?
It was Chelsea, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, we thought that was the one. No, it's a good question, and I think that's probably the question that Man United are asking themselves, really, because going into this game, all the talk was that this might be Amorim's last game, you know, that this might be 50 and out as the Man United head coach. So that's the level of pressure he is now under. And we're almost at a situation now with him, whatever the club says, it's almost like game by game, you know, will he survive, will he survive? And that's in itself is a terrible position to be in, especially at a club like Manchester United, where every single performance is being scrutinised, every result. The fact that he hasn't got, won't we?
We were. Look, it's funny you should mention about the back-to-back wins, because in the Sunday Telegraph, James Duckersby says, look, back-to-back league wins have proved elusive for Amorim, so there would be nowhere better to break that duck than at the home of the champions. It's Liverpool next, of course, United's most bitter rivals. United have to find some momentum from somewhere. After all, lurching from game to game, as you said, is ultimately unsustainable. Julian, is it unsustainable to keep talking about Manchester United in these terms? Because it seems to be, it's like when you were younger, maybe, I'm sure, when you were a girl that you might have liked. She loves me not. It feels like that every single week, doesn't it?
Yeah, and for all the little positives we can find in some of the performances sometimes, like yesterday, even like Arsenal in the opening game of the season, then the week after, they just go back to being very average or being disappointed or not doing even, no consistency really in what they could do or even what makes them good sometimes. So I'm not sure what to expect for the game at Liverpool in 2 weeks' time after the international break, really. Usually they do better against big teams and big clubs than against smaller ones. But we've seen these kind of wins before. Last season they beat Leicester 3-0 in March, I think, and we were like, OK, maybe this is something you can build on. And then after that, they went back to what they've done all through that year with Amorim at the helm. So I really don't know with them. But yes, he was a little bit better. But again, it was only Sunderland at home.
I think the sign of desperation is there when the goalkeeper makes his debut, does very, very well, keeps a clean sheet, and they're chanting that he's the new Peter Schmeichel. I mean, it's his first game.
It was tongue-in-cheek. It was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
Well, I know, but I think it does show that they're just so desperate to hang on to some bit of hope, some positivity. Yeah, and I know it was obviously tongue-in-cheek, but this almost kind of shows where they're at the moment, that just something like that, a goalkeeper who doesn't sort of, you know, throw one in, basically is something to celebrate.
Are there green shoots, though, Jackie? Because it looked like a dominant performance, particularly in the first half. Ruben Amorim called it an adult performance as well, because not only did they get the lead and a comfortable lead, they kind of managed the game in the second half, which is very unlike Ruben Amorim's Manchester United of late. Are there reasons to be, I'm not going to say fully optimistic, cautiously optimistic?
It's just crazy, isn't it, how we lurch from 1 week to the next with a completely opposing narrative. But that's down to them for not putting a sustained run together, and the fact they haven't won back-to-back in the Premier League since the end of the 2023-24 season is extraordinary. But I think a key to this was the early goal. The fact that Mason Mount scored in the 8th minute, I think, was huge. Can just settle things down. And I think huge credit goes to the supporters, by the way. I think their fans are so patient, way more so inside the stadium. When you actually go to Man United matches, it can be a little bit surprising because, you know, we hear the fact they got an early goal, the fact they've got a decent performance, yes, against a newly promoted side, but a good one that's hit the ground running, and fair play to Sunderland for that, I think was positive. But just talking about the narrative flip that we lurched from, you know, we're all guilty of it because we're reflecting what's happening, of course, in our jobs. But 34 points from 33 games is shocking. It's relegation form, second only to Tottenham in terms of the teams that have been solidly in the Premier League in that time. That was before yesterday. And now suddenly, a clean sheet, a good performance, an early goal, the fans are happy, a new goalkeeper who doesn't chuck one in, and suddenly it's 3 wins at home in a row. It's 4 Premier League wins out of 8. That's how things can change so quickly. Now it's up to the players. Now it's up to the manager to go, OK, we've got a foothold with a good, solid, basic win. We need to build on that. It's not up to the supporters. It's up to them to show that they mean business.
It's almost a shame that the international break is coming now, because really, if you're Ruben Amorim after this, and all the positives that Jackie mentioned. You go back to the training ground, you've got a week to prepare for the Liverpool game, and now tomorrow he's going to turn up at the training ground, there'll be 2 players, and they're going to just do keepy uppies or 3 players, and then that's it. And then he only sees them again in 10 days now. And in 10 days, a lot of things can happen with the national teams, and then you will only have 4 days or 3 days to prepare for the Liverpool game. So, in a way, this comes at the wrong time, this break.
Yeah, just looking at the Star on Sunday, their headline is back and no sack. Look, Jackie mentioned it there about the match-going fans. They really want it to work, and the hierarchy, more importantly, are desperate to see Ruben Amorim work as well. But I'll refer to this, and it's a little bit of 80s pop, if you like, referring to the Sun on Sunday. It's Bonnie Toiler. Ruben serenaded, but this is no total eclipse as heartache still looms. Do you feel there is an inevitability that Ruben Amorim will lose his job eventually, or will he be backed and no sack?
No, I think he's under pressure. He will be under pressure again if they lose against Liverpool in 2 weeks. Then we're going to say the same. But he can turn things around. He will have a bit more time. But I think there's always this kind of threat over him on like 2 defeats in a row, 3 defeats in a row, which they could easily do. And then that pressure is going to be bigger and bigger, and they will be linked with more managers, Gareth Southgate being one, and others, and it'll be difficult for him. But only results, more even than performances, only results can...
Today's game, because of the international break, now we've got another international break in November. I would have thought that next window, if he goes into that next window with a good run of results or a decent run of results, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, then the pressure will rise again. And I think we're almost in that game-to-game scenario with him now, which in itself is usually unsustainable going forward. So to answer your question that you asked to Julian, I still find it hard to see it working just because it's gone on for quite so long. I think whatever happens, though, they should probably give him this season because it gives them the whole season. Then I think they've only got the FA Cup in the league, and they might qualify for Europe, but they're not going to win it. So they may as well try and give this as long as possible to see if it will work, having invested so much into him, because otherwise, what are you going to do? And that's the big question.
And the hierarchy want it to work. That's key. The fans want it to work. The hierarchy want it to work. He clearly does. I like the fact that he said, my players back me. My players want me to stay in the job. Yeah, because he's taking all the flack on their behalf at the moment. But, yeah, I mean, it's in everybody's interest for them to try and build on this. But there were the odd tactical tweak yesterday that made things look a bit more positive with the attacking players coming together. He needs a little bit of time to get Mbeumo a bit more involved with Šeško. He looks so much better as a result of that. But it's got to happen quickly. And I slightly disagree about the result at Anfield because obviously Liverpool need to win that game too. And I think if it was a narrow defeat and if it was a really, really strong Manchester United performance, I don't think that's the end of the world. But yeah, a win would do wonders.
I think the hierarchy have to back him because the scrutiny will be on them as well, because they've spent a huge amount of money and it will be an expensive sacking, having given Erik ten Hag a new contract. So they're probably something like, we need him to succeed for our own jobs as well, not just Ratcliffe, but obviously Omar Barada, the CEO, and Jason Wilcox. They'll be under huge pressure if this doesn't work. And
having made him come effectively mid-season, he didn't want to come mid-season. He wanted to leave it to the end of the season. He's not daft. He knew that they didn't have the players that fitted his system. We keep banging on about systems, but that is the way he wants to play. They knew that. Maybe they know now that they made a mistake with that. So they want it to work out. And I agree with you. If they're not losing games every week, see it to the end of the season and see if it can potentially work with another window.